Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd Program, a husband and father of four, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham, again here with BK. What's up, my brother?
How are you?
How you doing?
Doing good.
So, as you know, we're going to calm down. We're going to be cool. Not going to be name calling.
Yep.
Professional like. I'm already getting a little heated on this one, so I just got to check myself. This one, we're going into the Pride Fest follow-up. If you checked out the last episode, then you understand kind of what was going on. Is that there was a drag show that was right across the street from my house. That was very near. It's next door to a church and a school and my home and all of that. More important than all that, there was a kids section where there was a couple things that just really didn't sit well with me, and that was the main reason I felt led to stand. And it was that there was a kids only section where it was not adults but the performers and then children.
Yeah,
that bothers me. There was encouraged tipping for their performances, and I'll say it, grooming children to tip people for performing. Not okay with that. Okay, the bathrooms, they put labels over the top of the bathrooms saying basically it's just with or without a urinal, but they were both sexes. It's both sexes with or without a urinal. What else? Bad track record. I know there was efforts and it was successful to not have as sexualized performance, meaning
wardrobe malfunctions.
Language about using when talking about a woman's breast, there's certain words you can use. Starts with a T, whatever. Laughing about it, joking about it, and saying, "Hey, these girls want to come out too," but whatever, that kind of stuff. I just disagree. I just believe that that's appropriate for kids. So that's the gist of the main reason why I felt led to wear a T-shirt that says "Stand to Protect Children," and on the back, "Jesus loves you and so do I." I wanted it to be true, right? I wanted it to be a true message. So that's where I felt led. I'm gonna adjust this, my brother, just a bit. Okay. The follow-up, just for context, you haven't seen this, right?
No, I've not seen it, no.
Okay.
No.
So I see that there's a meeting that says Pride Fest follow-up, and it's scheduled for our county commissioners, our elected officials, and I don't know that it's open to the public. I'm not sure because it's just a meeting. It's not like the big thing that you come to and there's public comment and all that. It's just kind of a workday meeting, but it's all public record. But then I asked someone, and they requested that it be at least video phone in to make some kind of comments.
Okay.
So, so I listen to it and I get on my AirPod. I go to my house. I'm in the neighborhood there and I'm listening. I'm only 5 minutes away from downtown Castle Rock, and I hear that it's September 11th. And they start talking about the significance of that day and this country, and it just starts stirring a little something in me because I'm just not knowing what we're talking about, and then going into this. Now all of a sudden it's patriotic and it's America. So that's the first little kink in the neck, right? The next
After
thing,
we went to Montana, invited to be part of a 10-year anniversary celebration of 9/11 for your team that was attacked in Benghazi.
Correct. So for me, what that means is that's a rough day, like many rough days, is that knowing that there's people that served this country, paid the ultimate sacrifice, and they can't stand for their children, because I know that there's a common thing amongst all veterans that I think we can agree on is that I'm going to go out in harm's way, I'm going to go downrange, and I'm going to go places you don't want to go and do things that you physically can't do. And I really only ask one thing: take care of my family, take care of my country, right?
Yeah.
And those guys paid with everything, and I feel if it's appropriate to speak for them. They would say, okay, I paid and I don't get to raise kids. Take care of my family. Take care of my country, right? So this hits me on a different level, right? So that's when you see me standing and doing all this stuff, I'm looking at it from a different perspective than a lot of people. I know a lot of people look at it that way, and I appreciate it. And I absolutely love this country and everybody in it, by the way. But it's a deep thing. It's a serious thing, and I see the danger. I see the danger from seeing the world and seeing that how good we have it. I see the danger down this line of thinking, right? So to hear that, and then to say in the military they have after actions, so now somehow you're piggybacking on the military and on the sanctity of this special day for September 11th in New York that hit us all, and in Benghazi, Libya, was an absolute failure of government, right? An absolute failure, malfeasance to do your part when somebody needs you. When they call, you're supposed to come, and it just didn't happen, right? So I'm already like, okay, right?
Sensitive, yeah.
And then I hear, hey, we're just going to make this even better, meeting the Pride Fest, meeting the drag show. We're just going to make it even better using all this military, and you're trying to ride this wave. And no, don't do that. Don't do that, right? And then it's like, we're here with the successful, it's also a big success. We're here with the Pride Fest people, which says it's open to the public. Roger that. I grab my keys. I drive 5 minutes. I walk into the meeting, right? So now, because I know what it's going to be, this is the way these things go, and they're pretty disgusting, actually. It's not our town, it's every town. I'm going to say a bunch of good stuff about you, because I'm a narcissist, we're not name calling. I'm going to say a bunch of good stuff about you, and then you say stuff about me. And then I say good stuff about you. Doesn't have to be true. Just say it that it's really good and nice, okay? And that kind of disgusts me a bit when there's a serious thing going on, right? There's a serious deal going on that needs discussion. It needs straight talk, respectful, straight talk, and there must be truth. So we're going to pick this up and the video, and we're going to attach the link to the video, and it's called Pride Fest Follow-Up. It's on September 11th, 2023, and we'll start, Tyler, just message for editing. We'll start with that first Pride Fest follow-up on the video, but then I think immediately jumping into 5 minutes because they're not even set up and talking yet. So I'm just going to bring it to 5 minutes, and we'll pick it up there.
Aware of the military or familiar?
Touchy.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a somber day, September 11th, and we're incredibly thankful to have law enforcement here with us. We're also joined by the organizers of Pride Fest and many others of the public and our staff. We're thankful that you're all here today. The purpose of our meeting today is to have a bit of an after-action report for those that are in the military or familiar with the military. Usually there is a bit of an after-action after any exercise to determine what can be done better, what was done well, and then how can we improve in the future. We know that Pride Fest has now come and gone in Douglas County. I'll just say as one commissioner, I'm incredibly thrilled and grateful, particularly to law enforcement, that there were no injuries that I'm aware of, no fatalities, nothing of an immediate or really significant public safety concern.
Okay, I know I'm supposed to let it play. Pause in here at 6 minutes and 5 seconds. I made a whole minute. Nothing really significant.
Really?
The profanity and all that, okay, comes with the territory, right? The assaults that were captured on video, and there's ongoing investigations. At least 2 that I saw on captured on video, and then assault on a senior, which is a felony, and a sexual assault on a minor, but nothing significant. He says that I like the sheriff that he's kind of aware of these things, but that's pretty significant in my book, right? You're serving everybody, so just because they're not on your side, that's significant in anybody's book. I don't care who it is, right? So. Again, hearing that, I'm picking up my car keys about now, and I'm heading in this direction.
Okay.
I think from a public safety standpoint, we're very grateful for the work that you put in. I really want to commend Pride Fest as well. I know the team is behind me. You guys are welcome to join us anywhere or wherever you'd like, but we're very thankful to each of you as well. We know that it's been a year and a half of intense planning and hard work. I hope you guys got a little bit of rest and refreshment in the midst of all of this, but I was there for a big part of the day. I know Commissioner Thomas was as well. From our perspective as a Board of County Commissioners, the goal was to balance our constitutional right to freedom of expression with protecting kids. That's why we changed our facilities policy to ensure that there would only be G-rated, family-friendly performances at our facilities. And I really have to...
Again, protecting kids. This is at 6:51. What does that mean? G-rated performances, but still encouraged to tip and still encouraged to go in this space where it's just the youth area where you're not allowed to go. So there was a letter written from an attorney to the sheriff saying, don't allow that. You're opening this thing up if you're pulling people out. If they don't let people go in there and you arrest them, you're creating this legal nexus and you are going to be sued, right? You're on the wrong side of right? So having all this being said is like, we are going to have to define what does protect kids mean, right? At some point, because that's the road they're going down.
Hats off to Pride Fest because...
But again, hats off, everybody. Great job, everybody. Everybody's swell.
Did a great job. What I saw, I was not there for the drag show performance, but an individual or performer that was Nothing nude, nothing pornographic, bright wigs, great costumes, great songs, but nothing lyrics-wise or otherwise. That would be anything other than G-rated. Always thrilled in a public space that people are able to express themselves. And we know that people showed up that had opinions, and that's okay. I think we welcome opinions. We don't always like how those opinions are expressed, but I know that may be a part of what we've discussed today. We do have an executive session set up, so if at any time, if the board wishes to go into executive session to talk about specific physical security measures, we can certainly do that. And I'll look for a prompt from our group here.
Can you hit pause really quick?
So,
one question I have in my mind is, I think the word might be innuendos. You know, you can say one word. I think you mentioned the T word for the upper half of women.
Yeah.
So tired of having to dance around stuff. But when somebody says G-rated, it's open for interpretation. But what I saw on the video, that was absolutely, in my opinion, a sexual innuendo. This was not a ballroom dance performance. This was not a ballet performance. This was somebody dressed, some might say provocatively, or sending a message, and then dancing in a very close, what I interpreted as interpersonal space.
Yeah. Touching kids.
Physical contact. Okay,
Why
even
are you
worse.
touching kids. And it's, you know, they call it art, man. I call it weird. Like, it's weird, man. You're a man and you're dressed up like a woman, but there's some kind of need, like you demand access to kids. And you're touching them and you're acting like a woman and you're kind of robbing this beauty that is women. And it's freaking weird, man. And you can tell, nobody wants to touch us with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Like if anything, they're going to be overly nice and accommodating. What's rewarded is repeated. Feel free to join us anywhere. Just come on in, speak up anytime you want. Just say all this stuff. And even the people that are like, I don't know what these people think, but it's like maybe they don't agree, but they're not touching this with a 10-foot pole. The problem is they're elected officials.
Yeah.
Like I heard the term, I got to stay neutral. You're not neutral. Neutral goes nowhere, right?
Yeah.
You side with truth. You don't have to side with me, but you better side with truth because I elected you for that, right? So that's the I have a real big problem with that because you're scared, and if you're scared, get out of the chair, right? Yeah. That's the deal. You can be scared, but you still have to stand, right? And if you don't do it, there's a lot of stuff coming out from Kyle Clark on the other side, and they had at us for a week, right? And now they're making us hate this and hate that, and these people this is just not true, right? There's no hate. I love people. I disagree. And you're saying because you disagree, you can't exist. So we're going to go after your business. We're going to go after you. Again, have at it. Have at it. But I still get to say it, and somebody's got to say it, so I'll say it. But now it infuriates them that someone has an opinion and it's not theirs, so you need to go away.
Well, and my mind is going down dark places.
And some of those videos, by the way, that were out there in the deals weren't this year. So they're trying to claim, well, that was last year. I'm like, right. So it was bad and it was last year. This is better, but it wasn't good. That's my main point.
And where I was going is my interpretation of decent behavior. There's places where people can go to watch dancers perform in a inviting way, and the common behavior is to tip them. There are other places you could go for dance performances, like the Denver Ballet. I don't think you tip those dancers.
You don't, right? It's like they brought up Shotgun Willies, right? That it's like
I was trying to dance around that.
Okay. Yeah. It's like, hey man, if it's a strip club, it's a strip club, right? And I've said that, like I said that.
What behavior are they modeling?
Right. If my kids were tipping at Shotgun Willies, I'd lose my kids, right? Like you can't pull out dollar bills and do that. They're like, hey, that's not supposed to happen, and now you need to come talk to us, and we're going to see if you get to keep your kids, right? But don't I get to raise my kids any way I want? No, you can't harm them. You can't harm children, and this is harmful. You keep doing it, we're going to take them away. We're going to put them in a better home, right? That's the deal. What if it's the weird thing where it's not a woman, if it's a man dressed like a woman? Oh, well, then it's good. Then it's okay. Disagree. I disagree.
Yeah.
Now it's doubly bad because now they're really confused, right?
That I'll turn it over to my colleague, Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. Having been with the State Patrol for many years, we often, after a big event, would get together and look at what happened and what could we do better next time? What can we learn from this? I was there before the drag show was scheduled from 5 to 7. I saw nothing. I told you all I would be there to watch. I saw nothing that was questionable. I saw kids laughing. There was a juggler. There was a ventriloquist. There was dancing, fully clothed. There was nothing that I thought was questionable. So you all delivered what you said you were going to deliver. So thank you for what you did. And I also want to thank law enforcement. I think it was Lieutenant Brian Murphy was there trying to figure out how to handle the situation when it happened. And he would come and tell me what was going on. And I wasn't there to tell law enforcement what to do at all. I was there to make sure that the contract regulations were followed, which they were. I applaud the sheriff's office. I did not see any violence, any confrontations take place. Afterwards, I was approached by many people who demanded to know why the sheriff's department didn't drag those people out.
Because we didn't break the law, right? You're swell, I'm swell, everybody's swell, so everybody's just patting everybody, massaging everybody. Doesn't that feel good? Now say nice words about me. When that thing happened, why weren't those people drug out? Because they didn't break the law.
Well, and the other question I have, are you those people? Because wasn't there people on a hillside with megaphones, like?
But they weren't in, so how
they
could
weren't
get
in the
drug
facility,
out, right?
okay,
Because there
great.
was
Okay.
like the protest area, and there was F-bombs, and that's the wrong way to do it, right? Yeah, let's pick it up.
And it was a call that I think was well made, because if you had started to try to move people out, I think the possibility of people being hurt would have been increased, and we didn't want any of that to happen. So I think that.
So your call was good, not because they didn't break the law, because if you would have went and arrested people for not breaking the law, it would have been really dangerous. That's exactly what's being portrayed here is like, right? Those people. You know what happened, those people. Implying they didn't make it, these people didn't do anything wrong. Their people didn't do anything wrong. They didn't yell in people's faces. They didn't sexually assault a minor. They didn't assault a senior citizen. They didn't do all that, right? You're saying that you remember those people that didn't break the law? You not arresting them was actually a good call because it would have been worse. This is a crazy time, brother.
Mm-hmm. Can't really get my head around that.
You can't make sense of nonsense.
Commissioner Thomas. Sheriff Weekly.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm here with several members of my command staff. As the elected sheriff, I recognize that it's my responsibility to serve all citizens. And we as an organization do not tolerate any type of discriminatory policing, and that starts with me. We are a nationally recognized Triple Crown accredited agency, and we are nationally recognized as one of the finest sheriff's offices in the entire country. Over the last several weeks, it's been inferred by some that the sheriff's office, along with Castle Rock Police, didn't do their jobs because of politics or personal relationships. That could be, there's nothing further from the truth. The safety of everyone at the Pride Fest is my responsibility as the sheriff, and I don't take that lightly. We were prepared for every contingency at that event, which had a lot of publicity, as you know, prior to the event. We were prepared for everything from an active shooter to explosive devices to riot conditions and mass arrests and everything in between. I told my command staff I wanted zero tolerance to anyone breaking the law. We had a chief deputy on site from my office. We also had a chief deputy from the district attorney's office on site if we needed to for any legal guidance that we might need. At the end of the day, and it's already been mentioned, to my knowledge, nobody got hurt. De-escalation was the mission of the day, and there was a lot of charged emotions out.
De-escalate who? Whose emotions?
You'd have to tell me. I can't picture it. I can picture guys on the hillside with megaphones. They're
Right.
pretty charged up.
Right. So the de-escalation and charged emotions, what I saw was all from this other side of screaming profanities in people's faces, right?
Well, and pretty minor issues at that, as far as I know. I don't want to opine any further than that, but thank you for providing that.
Again, pretty minor issues. Like this is just like it's sandpaper on skin. Like sexual assault on a minor is not a minor issue. A pretty minor. Let's just downplay all this. Let's stick with the you're swell, I'm swell. Right? What do you mean? What do you mean? There's like charges on who? On Jimmy? No. On any of those guys standing quietly? No. It's all on the other side. But they're mine. It's not even worth it. That little guy? Don't worry about that little guy.
And if there are specific issues that we'd like to,
Yeah, I just wanted to second what the sheriff said. The sheriff's office was working hand in hand as the chief of security for Pride. We worked hand in hand. The de-escalation policy worked as it was supposed to. And I know there are a lot of people out there, calling and saying, hey, why didn't the sheriff's office dive in? It's because we were working together to keep peace and safety for the families and children that were there. That was the top priority. Anything else takes second. So I want to call out publicly here on the record, the sheriff's office and Pride Fest worked together hand in hand to deal with what we were dealt, and we did the best possible we could with that situation.
thank you for that. So I also want to acknowledge Jimmy Graham, who's in the room from Able Shepherd, and I'll just say, occupying the space I occupy as a father, a Republican, a member of the LGBTQ community, a person of faith, I was doing a lot of shuttle diplomacy that day between a lot of the different groups, and I consider you all friends and colleagues, I really do. And for those that don't know each other, what I do know about Jimmy Graham is he is a strong man of faith that is out there trying to protect churches, protect families, protect people in our community. And I believe good intent on Jimmy Graham and those that have worked with him. And he's worked in our county in the past. I remember the STEM shooting very significantly, where you were at almost every single meeting trying to make sure that you could find a way to help keep kids safe. So I know we greatly appreciate that. The reality is that reasonable people and reasonable people of faith disagree on this issue. And so I think in a public facility, we welcome that difference of opinion, an expression of difference of opinion, as long as you're not preventing others from being able to share their views. So I wasn't thrilled that some of the view was blocked, but I get that. I think that, when you had the conversation, you moved along. We also have members of Parasol Patrol that also sometimes block views, and that's a process that we may want to talk about as well. For me, I'm a constitutional guy. I support the freedom of speech, and I think whatever's to be viewed publicly, we should all have an opportunity to see that if you choose to bring your families there. But Art?
As co-chair, Sheriff, I'd like to thank you for your work. I didn't even realize what was going on outside. I had no clue until Michael told me, but I would like to correct one statement. When you say no one got hurt, no one got physically hurt. Our children were hurt. Our children were injured. Our children and adults were traumatized. That is a form of injury and hurt. And I'd like to be sure that we are clear on when you say no one got hurt, that is not true. I am still traumatized.
For standing, like I'm trying to not bust out laughing right now. For standing, they actually put out a thing, somebody shared it with me, where they have some kind of time of reflection with the health, mental health professionals to help you navigate your trauma, because men stood and said nothing.
I said nothing, and were, as I saw in the video, invited to come up to the stage.
Right. You belong here is an invitation.
Yeah.
It's for everyone equally. It's an open thing. It's a free thing, but it's a ticketed thing. So just sign up for your ticket, but you belong here. This is for everyone. It's inclusion. It's love. It's not hate. Like Abe, commissioner for everyone. Like the sheriff for everyone, except us. There's a protected class here. It's crystal clear throughout this video, right? This is a problem. You traumatize me by being here. You should probably not exist. That's the lesson. This is dangerous.
From the incident. I know several of the parents and children are still working through it. So let's be conscious of when you say things, no one got hurt, no one got physically hurt. There's emotional harm that has been inflicted upon us in our community.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just say, I know, and I know the Board of County Commissioners knows that Pride Fest has worked for over a year to try to make this G-rated, family appropriate, an outstanding series of performances. I saw members of the faith-based community there, from churches, the Libertarian group was there. I mean, there were really a wide array of diverse groups, and you worked hard on that. So I think when we see our media run with a 7, 10, 15-day story and the focus isn't about your good work, it's about other things, that can be deeply hurtful, and I certainly recognize.
It's deeply hurtful because nobody's focusing on your good work. Define good, because to me, good equals godly and right equals righteous. LGBTQ, fill in the blank, and Christian, and I don't take the Bible literally, Abe Laden. What is your definition of good? Like that's his good work, because there's a saying about good works. There's a saying about good work in the Bible. Well, I think it's just a definition thing that maybe we disagree on. Yeah,
Certainly recognize that. But
I think one thing that's important to call out is, yes, freedom of speech is paramount. It's in the same amendment as the freedom of religion. It also includes separation of church and state.
Is that true?
Negative, Ghost Rider. That does
Separation
not
of church and
exist.
state. Is that in the Constitution?
Nope.
Is that in the Declaration of Independence?
No.
Okay.
Bill of Rights?
Bill of Rights?
Nope.
No. just making
So
sure.
now we're making stuff
I don't
up?
think you know what you're talking about.
And we
I know you don't know what you're talking about.
have to consider that the speech that was being said to protect the children from us, from the LGBTQ community. And those lies about us being groomers, about us being a problem for children, they inspire violence. They have all over the country. There's a lady a couple weeks ago shot for having a pride flag. It inspires violence. And when you get to the lie that's being given a platform, that lie could have very easily escalated to violence that day. It was thanks to the sheriff's office putting in their good work of de-escalation. It was thanks to the pride community maintaining their composure. Because, yes, while those protesters did not start any violence, by saying that we're groomers, by getting in people's faces and saying that we are criminals, that we should be arrested for having children there, that lie in and of itself could have gotten people, sheriff's officers, children, families killed that day if anyone had set off. So we've got to stop throwing matches at a powder keg and learn when to say, you know what, your free speech stops at the point where it puts lives at risk.
Did you say anything? Because I don't think there was any speech.
There's no, again, we can't make sense out of nonsense. What you said inspires violence. No, in weak people, anything can inspire anything in weak people, right? And then you start quoting people that one guy stabbed a guy and then a woman stabbed whatever, okay? How is that on me, right? How is that on any? This is very dramatic. As the Director of Security of Pride, like that's a huge title, right? It's like, this hand in hand and everybody's massaging.
But I can
each other
appreciate
pedestal.
he's getting emotional, he's getting passionate about it. But what I would consider some of the facts, you didn't say anything.
Right.
You weren't yelling.
Right.
You weren't expressing profanities. I don't know, little bumps in the crowd or elbows in the back. I don't think you guys were handing them out.
No, not at all.
I don't think.
And keeping their composure. Thanks to the Pride community keeping their composure.
Didn't see
Sexual
that.
assault on a minor, physical assault on a senior citizen, other documented assaults that are being investigated right now. Thank you for keeping your composure. You didn't keep your composure. We live in a world where if you say things enough, people, because their attention's that big, all of a sudden it becomes truth. And that's the play here.
Yeah.
Known or unknown, that's the play here. Let's keep saying this nonsense until it becomes truth. The problem is you can't fabricate truth. It's only one truth, right? Is that you're being investigated right now for crimes. And so there's going to be a right and a wrong. And I'm literally holding the sheriff's office to their word. If there were laws broken, people will be held accountable. Ball's in your court, right? Because I know this is happening. I know that these reports have come through, and I know they've been filed. And I know I've personally been there talking about this stuff. But being this dramatic and making this thing, we talked about it in the other podcast. Okay, cool, man. This is kind of your world, and this is your day, and you're getting in there. And I disagree. I disagree that this is this dramatic, and that the cooler heads prevailed, like where Abe says, and you were one of those cooler heads. You're the one with the gun. Like, you can't, I'm gonna explode and kill everybody with my karate chop. Like right here, I called these guys to be unarmed and stand in self-control. He had a knife strapped here and a gun on, and he called people to be armed for 300. One of the tables. Are you one of the Nazis? I'm like, I don't think so. They're like, 300 Nazis are supposed to walk through here with firearms. I'm like, wow, that's unfortunate because I don't have a gun. Right? So it's just a silly thing.
Because people could have died that. And it was only the cooler heads prevailing that prevented that. And I want to make that crystal clear.
My hand's been up like
Thank you for that, Mike. And you were one of the cooler heads.
You were
Jimmy.
one of them. You were one of them, brother.
For the record, how would that have happened if you weren't armed? Because I saw the knife attached to your backpack. In reality, when we came and simply stood and said, stand to protect children, Jesus loves you and so do I. Just because you're scared doesn't make me scary. I can stand wherever I want on an open event. You belong here as an invitation. That means me too. That means I have rights in this county as well. I was there. You were there. Laura, you were there. I didn't see your kids there. I didn't see your grandkids there. That's okay. You have the right to do that. But I have a right to stand as a man in self-control. I asked these men, if I'm going, you're invited. If you're going to stand in self-control, then you can come with me, and they did. So 70 plus, I've heard 70 to 100, I didn't count. Many people, many men and women, by the way. All of a sudden there's men and women again, and it was just men allowed to. Men and women, your constituents in this area, stood and said, we disagree with past years of indecent performance, of yes, grooming children to tip sexual performance, as in this has happened. This is on record, guys. Come on, what are we doing? Right? We love to sit down. You know I'm talking. Wait a second. No, sorry. I thought then we allowed somebody to.
We're gonna have one at a time. The purpose of this is to be an open dialogue.
So what dialogue says, because I was invited, not like this man, is that when you said you're invited.
Hey, Jimmy,
and
I'm going to ask you to leave if you cannot be professional, respectful to the people in this room.
Hey, Jimmy, I'm going to ask you to leave because you had the floor. Another man jumped up in front of you. I said, sit down, I'm talking. He jumps in my face, blocks me, and starts talking over me. What does Abe see? This is beautiful because this is true colors right here.
So you can only
pretend
see that on the
so
screen.
long. You can only pretend for so long. He slams his hands down, jumps up in front of me, starts yelling over me, and you know what Abe sees? Jimmy, if you can't be respected, we're going to have to ask you to leave. That's where I want. Is it Cyndi Lauper's True Colors? I want it just to blast out and start playing. There you are, Abe. Roger that. Serves all the people until clear. I didn't jump in front of anybody and start yelling. I had the floor.
Yeah.
So when he jumps in there and starts talking, all of a sudden the truth comes out. Got it.
Wow.
Take the wheel, Big City.
And then we're
I think once again, what we're trying to do in this room is foster a spirit of peace and conversation and a way to move our county forward.
So address the guy that jumped to his feet while I had the floor.
And interrupted.
Right? But he doesn't see that. Why? Because it's the blind leading the blind. We have unhealthy leading, trying to lead our community right now, and I think it's time for a change.
So let's try to keep emotions calm here and avoid the personal attacks. I respect exactly where you're at.
Which person?
I respect where you're at, sir.
personal attack.
But what you just said
Please
is that
define
somehow there
personal
was
attack.
not a G-rated performance that you were part of, and you're bringing up things from
There
your,
have been.
yeah.
You
What about
said,
this,
listen to
Jimmy?
me, September 11th, you mentioned the military, that's what got me in my truck, right? And this whole recognition of this day, right? And we're going to learn. There must be room for truth in this conversation. There must be, okay? You said I agree with you, people were harmed. Children were harmed, right? Psychologically, for many years, letting up grooming and letting this. And there are ongoing investigations. You're saying this was just this huge success. There was sexual assault charges. There are physical assault charges. There's a felony assault on a senior. There are investigations going on. How many by us? 0. You know why? Because we didn't do anything. We stood where we were. You guys invited this and funded it. You're a part of this. Not saying you're at fault. I'm not. Okay? But I get an opinion too, and there must be room for the truth. That is my piece. Sheriff, excellent job. Police department, excellent job. There were assaults going on. Perhaps they weren't seen and no one was arrested. But to say this was a success is an absolute failure. I will stand for the children and the grandchildren of this county, period. Right?
Mr. Graham.
Not an assault on individuals, but on indecency. It can't be, I get to stand, at least for now, it's a free country, and I get to stand as a man and say, I disagree. We're not escorted out. We left when we were ready to leave. We were invited to stay. You asked us to leave, you invited us to stay. Brother, thank you for being a professional. Thank you for being a professional. Okay, you were.
The
You
time.
did not.
Jimmy, thank you for that, sir. Yeah.
So we're obviously going off the thing.
So now the narrative changes, and they don't like it because there's another opinion in the room. We're obviously going off the rails. Let's get back to talking about us. Remember, you say stuff that's nice, and I say stuff that's not true, just nice. Let's get back to that thing because that's where I'm comfortable.
Into rehashing things, but I want to make something very clear. There's a First Amendment. There's also manner, place, and method and time restrictions on the First Amendment, and it is clear at the fairgrounds that protests are designated to a specific area. Knowing those rules applied, a group of individuals, I think led by this man, but I don't know, decided to thwart those rules in a way to try and interfere with a lawful presentation of entertainment. I don't think a single person sitting here would have permitted or would think that a protest designed to end run the rules of the fairgrounds that interfered with, say, I don't know, the county fair, the performance at the county fair, and prevented people from watching it, prevented it from going forward. I don't think anybody sitting here would say, well, that's just people having difference of opinions and that's the First Amendment. There's a reason we have at the fairgrounds time, manner, and place restrictions on it. This group of individuals decided to ignore them, that they were above the law, that they got to do whatever they wanted.
Which law?
I'm not familiar with one, but
Which law? Like above the law implies there was a law and we were above it.
make sure I'm getting this in the right order. You were invited to attend.
Correct.
You purchased a ticket for entry.
Free ticket. But
You had a
registered.
ticket?
Yep.
You're in the audience.
Correct.
They invited you up to the stage.
I wore a shirt, right? Not blocked, and that's what he's implying, that it was like, we should be able to have this event. Who stopped you? You invited us up to, that was never in the plan. I say that in a minute. The plan was never to walk up front and block a thing, never. They invited us, which was kind of funny, right? Like, it was weird. Because as soon as they did, I'm like, oh, I guess this is like, when are we going to do the thing? I guess it's now, right? Because they thought they were being cute. And like,
But what was being blocked? The parachute things?
No, because that didn't fit the narrative, right? Not the, whatever, it wasn't 20, the 10 umbrellas that were blocking, that doesn't count, right? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. So literally having a thing blocking the view that doesn't really fit the narrative. But a guy standing there, wearing a t-shirt, that fits the narrative. So let's focus on that.
Okay. Yeah, and I've not seen this video, and I'm interested to see.
And then they come in here and he throws accusations about us. I heard the word groomer come out of his mouth.
If you're grooming, does that make you a groomer? This is all documented. They're encouraging tips for these performances, right? And last year, there were kids up there performing, getting money, and then they were also tipping money for performing. That
Feels like a groomer.
I feel like it's grooming.
At us and then pretend that that's just nothing. I mean, it's not a productive use of our time to rehash this, not why we wanted to have this meeting. We wanted to talk fundamentally about how we move forward and how we can address security to keep our right to have this event going forward. Because he has a right to protest. There's a protest zone. He knew it. They intentionally decided to bypass those rules because they think they're above the rules. And when they were
I
instructed
said speculation.
by the sheriff's department to leave, they did not. They stayed and remained and interfered until the drag show started, which apparently I thought the whole point of this presentation was for them to protect kids from the drag show. But the second the drag show started, they all got up and left. Like, I mean, to the extent that was the motive, it actually seems that the sole motive was to stop the drag show from happening at all. And when that failed, they all left.
So now he's just making up a story.
Yeah.
He's like, I thought the motive. Well, you didn't think at all. Actually, you have no idea what you're talking about. I thought the motive was this. He didn't have a motive, and once that failed, it's like no, it was success actually.
I saw a video clip of you in a conversation with an officer and a security member talking about, no, you're invited to stay.
Yeah.
Why don't you stand here? And I believe the conversation involved, well, where should we stand so we're not blocking views, or what's the most, and you were giving guidance and direction by the security team lead?
That's exactly what happened, right?
And
It's
the
like,
officer
we're gonna come
basically
and
like,
wear
we're
a
good?
shirt. I was gonna expose a shirt that had a message, and other people were gonna do the same, right? From the aisles, just amongst the thing, not blocking anything. You can watch the deal and stuff. Then they invited us up, right? Then they got all started bossing and whatever. We went over and talked to the commander, and that's where that conversation had. But they didn't talk to each other. So Michael, the chief of security for the Pride,
So the security person
didn't
is in
tell
the field, but
the
not
guy,
on the
right?
stage.
He's there talking on the side of the stage to us,
Okay.
kind of directs. And
Lack
that's
of
what he
communication.
Kind of pretty professionally, right? And I was like, yeah, okay, sounds good. How about here, here, and here? How about here, and here? Then it's all good to go, but nobody told that dude. So he's up melting down.
And he's up on stage with the microphone, kind of
Right.
MC, lack of a better word? Okay.
Yeah. So that at that point, they just implode.
Because they did what they intended to do. So I'd like, obviously there's a lot of emotions going around. Obviously he doesn't like it when I stand up and block his view, try and interfere with his right, as he shouldn't. Just like we didn't like it when he stood up and tried to interfere with our right to have an event. There's obviously a ton of emotion. It's not a productive use of our time to litigate this part of it, right? We have a right to have a performance of a direction.
He's like, there's no way I'm going to win here because there's no law broken. So let's move on. Like, let's go. Put the focus back on me because they didn't break a law, but I want you to take them to jail. And obviously that's not going to happen. So we'll talk about other things.
We did everything we were asked to do to present this in a family-friendly way. We complied with everything. We worked with the sheriff's department. We worked with county commissioners. We worked with the fairground staff to make this a success. And what we would like to do, and what I think the effective thing to move forward, is to discuss the future of Pride as far as ways to prevent this type of interference with our right to hold an event from happening in the same way that we would expect that if a protest interfered with a rodeo at the county fair or any kind, or a church group, that there would be discussions about how to prevent that from happening. Yeah, we're not asking for special treatment. We're asking to be treated like everybody.
Sir, thank you. So I'm going to invite our county attorney and probably the sheriff's office to provide some of the legal background to hopefully explain basically where we're at from a facility standpoint. Jeff?
Can I just add one thing?
Ma'am, so we're going to have our county attorney.
Well, from the standpoint of anything talking about policy or anything about security or safety, I think that we want to go into an executive session. We want to do that, which means that we would lead this room and go to a private. Sure. To the extent that we would talk about any changes to policy or anything along that, we would want to go into executive session and see how would we address this or any protest at the fairgrounds, because we are making policies not only for your organization but for all organizations using them. That historically there has been a place for protests, that a place for protests and a place for gathering signatures, which has existed in multiple events. That same existed here. So I think that's where we're at as far as policy goes. With regard to anything else from the sheriff, I'll defer to them, but I think the sheriff's made their statements regarding this.
Well, and maybe to help guide the discussion, and this is my understanding, so I would ask for just an open dialogue. And I'm not a huge fan of executive session. If we all want that, I'm fine doing that, but I'm here to serve the people of this community and make sure we have an open and clear conversation. We may not all agree, but I hope there is a zone of agreement going forward. Now, my understanding is that free speech, we allowed all members of the public who wanted entrance into the facilities to come. At one point in the drag performance, I believe those that were protesting were invited to stand, and they did stand. And then there was a bit of a half an hour standoff, the conversation was reached, and then those that were protesting eventually
They were invited to take their shirts off, get it over with, and leave, were my exact statements.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not, if they saying, oh, well, we were invited to do that. Yes, you were also invited to leave.
Yeah.
So you can't have it both ways.
They provided a video of us being invited to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Right, 'cause that happened.
And the one thing I want to clarify one thing. Not everybody who wanted to come into Pride Fest was allowed to come into Pride Fest. There was a group of small-minded, mask-wearing, vigilante, proud boy, whatever you call those types of people who were appropriately, when they came marching.
Do we get to talk like that? And I don't disagree, because the people up there were they were way out of order.
Up there, they were up on a hillside.
Right. But he's like small-minded, idiot, like all that stuff. This guy's a bit of a mess.
He has an opinion.
We don't
but
get to talk like that. But it's just.
I would say it a little differently. You don't choose to talk like that because you choose to model behavior that you deem appropriate. So that's how I.
Well said.
Marching down the hill directed to the protest center, because that's what that zone is for. And that is exactly what should have happened here. The sole reason to do this, which, I mean, honestly, drag queens would be a little impressed by the big reveal that had been planned here for these protest t-shirts. The whole point of that was to avoid that regulation, was to avoid being instructed.
Who's the bad guy with the bow tie? Could we announce him?
Oh, my name's Johnny King. I'm legal counsel for Castle Rock Front. Thank you.
I think it's important to mention that also.
Very dramatic. And I said, you announced me coming in. Who's the mad guy in the bow tie? I had to get that one out. I'm sorry.
Also, before any of the events happen at the amphitheater between 3 and 5 p.m., I had entered the facilities at about 2:15 p.m. on that Saturday. Within 15 minutes, when I was sitting down watching the chair performance, Eli Bazan, the head of Parasol Patrol, stood in my face and said, if you're doing anything, I will get you thrown out. That was an act of intimidation. I have this on video. So to say it's just one-sided is not having a fair or honest conversation.
You're not a child now. You're not a minor.
So
You're an adult. No, you're an adult.
So she doesn't really matter. So her name's Amy. I don't know her well. I've come to know her through some of these discussions. Very passionate. You know, she's been hurt in the past. She's voiced that publicly and all that stuff. Abe could care less about her. He's so rude to her. And now this guy's talking over her, and it's unfortunate. You're not a minor. It's like, you don't have rights. You're not a kid. Like it's a strange.
You can handle it. We've endured.
You can handle it.
And why is he talking over her?
I'm sorry. I just would like to refocus this conversation. I am wondering, I would love to hear again the purpose of this meeting. I would like to hear who is considered public and who is considered part of this
So
meeting.
good.
And then
Who here is considered public? I know it's a public meeting, but does that mean like this guy, right? Why are other people that disagree allowed in a public meeting at the county commissioner's office?
I would respectfully ask you to move to executive session if we feel like the conversation is not moving forward.
If we feel. That means closed doors. Can we move to closed doors? If we, like Pride and Abe, if we feel like this isn't productive for our side, can we close the doors maybe on a Sunday or maybe at night? They probably won't be here. Pay attention to this. This is freaking dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
Based on who is here from the public versus part of the meeting. And I don't know where I stand on that either, sir. So I would appreciate just having that, understanding what the purpose of the meeting is, and then making sure we're moving forward in that direction, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I believe that the purpose of this meeting is to have an open dialogue about Pride Fest and hear from all parties about how, as a county, we can come together and do what's best for the 400,000 citizens that we represent, but then also focus forward on how future events may look. And so I'll defer to our county attorney in terms of what executive session would look like.
Executive session, when we go into that, we would have to be speaking about investigation or security measures.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's just general policy or rehash of the events or history about it, that wouldn't be covered.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's really any kind of productive use of anyone's time. I've been to several of these meetings now.
Why is he in charge of anything?
Saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It's a really unfortunate series of events. But I do think that there are some legitimate questions about that we would like, and discussions that we would like to have with Sheriff's Department, Fairgrounds, about changes to security and specific security issues that we could address in order to help prevent this from happening again. Because I think everybody would agree that prevention is better than reaction, and that if we, whether it's the people who decided to stand up, who felt like they were being intimidated. Certainly, I saw children crying in the stands in response to these people standing up and looming over them, and very strongly sending a message that they and their community are not welcome here. I think avoiding the kind of
What?
I can't wrap my head around that.
kind of
I don't think he
violence,
can do that.
potential for violence is really what everybody wants. And I think that there's some discussions that we can have productively about how we can kind of address that. It's hard to have those conversations about how to prevent and the best ways to prevent protests with the people who are intending to protest in that space.
So I think after you make those comments, what I kept thinking about that day is that Red Rocks is owned by the city and county of Denver. Jeff, is that correct?
That's right.
And they have a sunrise service every Easter there. So what would happen if a group of atheists came in and stood up and stopped that longtime famous sunrise service? What would have been done? How would that have been prevented? Because maybe we can learn something from what Denver does. Because maybe we can learn something from what Denver does so that something like this doesn't happen again. Because I think
maybe we can learn from what Denver does, because that's exactly what's going on. Is big city. We want to say small town, but we want to make it a big city in the worst possible way.
I think having been there and watched and been told there was a place for protesters, to have these protesters standing there and stopping the show for 30 minutes seemed inappropriate to me. And I'm not saying the sheriff's office should have done something different. I'm not.
I'm not saying that because I say nice stuff about you and then you're supposed to say it back to me.
That this is a moment for prevention for next year so that they can put on their show and not have a disruption.
Sheriff's Office or County Attorney want to speak to that?
I will say I'm just amazingly impressed with the fact that the Sheriff's Office had a DA on the line. The fact that there was a legal situation that required a legal answer, they referred to that and then took guidance from the DA's office, who isn't here at the moment, is impressive a plan as I can think of the situation. Because in a situation like this, there's all kinds of different legal questions that could come up. And the fact that they had prepared like that, they did consult an attorney at the time. It's the best spot on as possible. And I believe that some of the facts that were addressed with this, please correct me, I don't want to speak for the Sheriff's Office, was the fact that there were individuals who were invited to make a protest when it was known they were in the inside the facility.
By Captain White or Chief McIntosh to comment. I can comment.
Apologies, my brain's processing slow. You were sitting in the crowd. You had a cover garment.
Standing. Everybody was kind of standing, yep.
Weren't you invited to stand?
We were invited to reveal the shirts.
The T-shirt.
The T-shirts, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of people standing there. They made a big announcement, and we've got that clip, we'll play that clip, about come up and do this thing, right? So we do the thing and expose the shirt, but the plan was never to go up front. It was never to come up to the front and do the thing.
Tyler, pause for editorial. What's this protest zone they're talking about? Was there
that's
tape on the ground?
Up on the hill for the megaphone people.
Okay.
So they were saying if you're going to protest, go up there. But we weren't. The plan was never to protest. It was to take off the shirts. Just stand there with everybody else and just take off the shirt and everybody go, oh, look at that, and then turn our backs and kind of show that Jesus loves you, so do I. So here's a message for you: Jesus loves you, so do I. Then they invited us up. Then we were invited to stay.
Good.
Yeah. So that.
My name's Joel Light. I'm kind of took over the charge of this event and wrote an operational plan and met with organizers of the event, mainly with Michael. And we spent a lot of time on the phone in person talking about the rules of the event. There was a one-page
set of rules that it was at the county fairgrounds that people had to comply with, and that there were certain things we couldn't stop when being open carry. So we kind of worked with those rules and worked with the event staff to come together. The biggest thing we spent a lot of time and talks was that we were going to come in shirts, and we knew that ahead of time, and it wasn't prohibited by the event. It's a message on t-shirts. The intel I had, we did not know that they were going to stand in front of the show itself and prevent that show from happening. I think when that,
because we weren't, but we were invited, and they could have had the show.
I think when that happened, we worked largely, spent a lot of time talking about de-escalation conversations and how to prevent this. Because really, truly, the last thing we wanted was a large police presence coming in and traumatizing already kind of difficult situation. So we talked a lot about de-escalation and then the steps thereafter de-escalation, which was, let's try to de-escalate it. If they break the rules, let's have a conversation with them to leave. And that conversation went back and forth on and off for about approximately 30 minutes from the time they entered to the time they finally left the event. It went well from our perspective, and I think that marching in members of the sheriff's office sword and tactical gear would have further traumatized children. And it was our goal from the get-go to allow the event to take place successfully and move on, which it in effect did. So that was really the crutch of everything that we had. The district attorney, Clint McKenzie, was on site and was in constant negotiations with our patrol command staff as to what was, when there was a law violation and when there wasn't. And at times, unfortunately, we were like, you can stay and watch, where the event coordinators would say, you can stay and watch. That stopped that process of de-escalation to trespass, if that makes sense. So it really prohibited that. It's nothing on you folks at all. It would just, it's kind of reset the clock. And so we were pushing at that event that, okay, we have the de-escalation. If they're breaking the rules and violating, the rules of the festival, then at that point, we'd ask them to leave, and then that stopped. There was a stopping point for that where, like, you don't have to leave, you just have to get out of the way. Again, conversations were happening in the background between Michael, Lieutenant Murphy, and Jimmy Graham from Able Shepherd to try to get this to a point where we didn't have to march in members of the sheriff's office and start moving people. So that's ultimately my take, Chief.
Just a couple of comments. We've had past Pride events. There was 2 off-duty deputies that were hired for this event. Everybody else that was at the fairgrounds that day was there because of the foresight of the sheriff to know that this was extremely a heated topic, and it's evidenced by just by what we've heard this afternoon, and rightfully so. I'm very passionate about what it is that you believe. We are in a position as law enforcement that we enforce the law. We don't enforce people's opinions. We have to enforce the law. So a crime has to occur before we can take action.
Such a
and to the captain's point, we had a protocol set, and Michael, I have to tell you, working with you was fantastic because you have just been very, very communicative.
So I'm just going to comment because everybody's doing it and they're stroking. This is such a delicate thing. I've never seen any organization, and it's not like it's good security. It's not like it's top notch. It's not like it's the police, but it's just such it's a strange deal. These are all new waters, and everybody's delicate because they don't want to get sued or look like a fill in the blank. And there's so much stroking going on and just petting. and it's a little bit disgusting.
Well, and I think you said it early on, like people don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Oh yeah,
He's
back there saluting, and he's thank you, and yeah, me and you, right? Meanwhile, they're claiming that me and the sheriff are in cahoots.
No.
While he's over here dying to be in cahoots with police, right? I'll back the sheriff even if he doesn't back me. That's my deal, right? That's I'll back the police. That's just the right thing to do, right? But he's dying to get on this stage. Not really his stage. He's dying to get in there. Kind of a protector guy. Okay, brother. Okay. And I believe he believes he is, right? But there's a weird kind of thing going on where there is the 10-foot pole. And if there's anything with the 10-foot, if I come in but from within 10 feet, it's going to be to like just pet you and make sure you're okay. And that you think I'm swell and you're swell, so don't call me a thing, even though I'm not.
With the captain and how it is that we make this as peaceful as an event as we possibly can, knowing that it's a heated topic, knowing that there's going to be people that disagree with what's happening. I guess your grace in some of that ebbed and flowed this whole process. So when we get to a point to where you're no longer, you're disruptive, that the protesters were being disruptive, they are breaking the rules. Now we have an opportunity to start taking an enforcement action. But then when they were invited to, you don't have to leave, and I was with the deputy DA sitting in the mobile command post, and when those words came across the radio, the words that came out of, the next words that came out of his mouth is, we no longer have a crime. The next words that came out of his mouth is, we no longer have a crime. So that backs us out of this process again.
We no longer have a crime. Because that we could feel it. Time to go, right? We've said our thing, we're going to do it. And then he says, no, stay. I'm like, this is weird. It's just like, I don't know why he would have said that. They just invited us to stay, but just kind of move back to where we always planned on being.
Yeah.
Cool, let's see where this goes. So then we did. Their call from the commander that I was talking to was like, okay, well, he just invited you. We're done here, right? We no longer have a crime. We never had a crime.
And we kind of have to start over. Right. And that's why there was what some would perceive as a delay. I also have to remind you, and you brought up the point, Commissioner, there's a sunrise service, there's a rodeo, I think, that was brought up. And there's some protesters now that are standing there protesting the event. Absolutely, law enforcement is going to get called, and we're going to make sure that there's a disruption that's going on.
I think I say this. Interrupting a religious service is a felony. They're not a religious service. They're not God.
But Denver wouldn't be prepared for that. They would have to respond to that. Mm-hmm. In years past, we wouldn't have been prepared for that. We would have to respond to that. We were absolutely prepared to take criminal enforcement action if we needed to. The other thing that I just want to bring out is law enforcement is in a conundrum right now. Very true. The minute that we react to something, we were absolutely judged on that action that we take. And I can guarantee you that had I marched a team that the captain and I had geared up and ready to go, because we were very close to being there at one point. And I marched a team of folks dressed in, I call it turtle gear, but they look like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles into this event. There was going to be not just dealing with the protesters, but it's also people react to what we're doing. And we would have had more than just those in the white shirts that we would have had to deal with.
Exactly.
So those are all things that are running through operational commander on this scene to make sure that if we can go through de-escalation tactics, I'm going to do that every time. before I take enforcement action. And so that's why there may have appeared to be a little bit of a delay. But I can also tell you that had we not had the people on scene, it would have been 20 minutes just for enough people to respond to that event to even start those negotiations as to how it is that we're going to move forward. So a lot of work went into this event prior to the event. A lot of work went into the event during the event, and obviously a lot of work has gone on after the event. So,
So Chief, thank you for that. And that's one of the reasons that, Anya, to your point, why we wanted to have this meeting is to kind of walk through the purposes and intents that law enforcement had. And I really see it through the lens of our law enforcement here. I mean, the foresight, wisdom, and thoughtfulness to not overreact, but to be on scene and so prepared. You can see it in their eyes. I mean, it was a lot of time, effort, and energy to make sure that that went as well as it did. And I get your point, sir, that, and yours as well, that maybe things weren't as ideal as we had hoped. But considering the circumstances, I am very pleased with law enforcement.
Yeah. I want to clarify something, if it hasn't been clear. We don't come here with a single complaint about what law enforcement did on that day. Not a single one. We think everything you did was phenomenal. We think your preparation, we think your actions, we think your reactions, everything was exactly what we could have asked for. The reason I wanted to have this meeting actually was to have a discussion about what steps can we take next year.
So it sounds like everybody did their job except for the people that broke the law. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stroking going on, but there's only one group that actually broke the law. And it is my absolute hope that that's what comes to light, because I know what happened, that it is recognized and they're held accountable.
Yeah.
So that we never have to de-escalate. We never get to the point of needing de-escalation because we are able to direct people who want to protest to the designated protest zone, and that our event can move forward so that people aren't in danger, so that there isn't this. That's, I think, what the productive conversation is. And, you know, that I'm hearing things, you know, I was there that day, and, you know, I'm hearing things that we did that complicated your job. Certainly we did from a perspective of ourselves trying to de-escalate, trying to get things moving. You know, one of our biggest concerns is the longer these people interfere with this event, the angrier our crowd is going to get, and that's just, nobody wants that. So but I think really kind of that kind of discussion about, you know, kind of specific security measures that we would like to discuss and possibly to implement for next year. In two particular areas, just to get clarification moving forward, and as well as maybe some policy changes that might actually facilitate this and make it an easier job for us and possibly, hopefully, for you all as well.
So, Counselor, thank you for that. And I think that's where, as a Board of County Commissioners, we're really just trying to listen to all citizens, law enforcement, Pride Fest, those that don't necessarily agree with Pride Fest, to try to arrive at the best decision. So for us, I go back to the hypothetical that my colleague raised around, you know, Red Rocks and an Easter service. What does that look like? And when an organization avails itself of a public space, what are the boundaries and restrictions that are appropriate and inappropriate, frankly, in that particular milieu? So I'm thinking, you know, at least as one commissioner, I don't like the idea of a public facility being used and then members of the public being told that they cannot attend or participate. And so I hear your point.
I would argue that because we knew ahead of time who these people were, we knew who was coming, we knew exactly how to spot them. The ability to prevent someone you know is going to misbehave from entering is vital going forward, or this discussion can't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, you use a word. You use, hey, one at a time. So you use the word
misbehave. Notice how anybody talks from Pride, there's never any kind of shutdown. Amy just tried to talk, and he said, one at a time.
Yeah.
Because he's not there to listen, he's there to talk, right? Unless they speak. Very, very transparent. You can see right.
And I really need to get my head around this.
Good luck.
You didn't say anything. You wore a t-shirt. You were invited up to the stage. You were not asked to leave. You were asked to stay. And are they requesting... Oh, maybe they're clairvoyant and they have the ability to identify bad people as they're walking up.
Bad guy coming in.
Well, I don't know.
And that's the thing.
Because what's happening here is I don't know if it's profiling or stereotyping. I don't know how they would decide who to let in, who to let out. But if they're making a decision, it's no longer a public event. So I'm just really confused as to now the rules of entry, because I think you said you had a ticket and they let you in.
Right.
Can't make sense of nonsense. That's my takeaway. Okay.
That. So berate Amy more. Don't let her talk.
Misbehave. And so from my perspective, I think if we had our fair and rodeo,
Misbehave.
people show up with t-shirts that say all kinds of things. And they'll be front row, back row, middle row, right on the side with t-shirts that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, but we don't tell them that they can't be there because they bought a ticket, they show up. So I will tell you as one, I was not, I don't think it's appropriate to tell Jenny Graham's group they can't wear t-shirts and show up at a public event. So maybe narrower, I mean, what I'm hearing you say, Counselor, is you want to see a dedicated space for protest. I'm not saying I agree with that.
We just want to be able to say you belong over there.
It's a time, place, and manner restriction. And it's fundamental to public space that your right to speech does not entitle you to a right to keep other people from speaking, particularly in...
But wait, what did he just do to you? Your right to speak is on hold.
Yeah. You have the right to speak unless it's you. If you disagree with us, you don't have a right at all.
Did he really say that? You have the right to speak unless it's you.
You cannot have, as part of your protest rights, the interference with and stopping of an event. That is not protected speech. Right. That is trespass. Right. So that's what we're talking about.
This isn't law. He's just babbling.
Made clear their intent to interfere with an event before they arrive and having the ability to leave those people out, just like...
Do you know why they knew all this? No. Because they had undercover police at the prayer when I talked about self-control and we said a prayer. They had undercover cops. There was nothing hidden. Nothing. We had an open prayer before where we gathered at a ranch in Douglas County and we talked about all of this. And challenged men to be better, to be unarmed, and just do this correctly. And there were undercover cops there that we knew were there. They're like, they're coming. They walked up and said, I'm the undercover cop. What do you want to do, brother? Do you want me to announce you? No, we're going to lay low. Anything you need from us? No, we're just going to chill. The end. Except there's like this huge conspiracy to interrupt the thing. Those guys know exactly what the plan was. They were probably there watching and going, oh, they just invited him up. That's weird. Because they probably reported back to these guys, which is their job. Because he's the guy that sent them, by the way. Right? And they probably came back and told him, and they told him, this isn't a big secret. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not this big, as dramatic. And they love this, this is exciting. It's TV stuff. Like the attorney jumping up. It's like he's... Matthew McConaughey, it's like this lawyer was
Lincoln lawyer.
It was a Lincoln lawyer, or A Time to Kill, or you name it, brother. But that's where they're living.
You all and thank God, honestly, I saw those idiots coming down the hill. Direct the
Patriot Front guys.
Yeah. Direct them to the protest center. You all were there right then. You rolled up high and deep. And you directed them to where they were supposed to go, and there was no incident. And that's all we're discussing. That's the kind of free de-escalation that we're talking about. is, you know, I'm not talking about, you know, excluding, though I think when somebody has interfered.
Yeah, you kind of are.
Event, probably it's appropriate for them to be excluded from that event moving forward. But, you know, I just like I would expect if, you know, I went to the rodeo and you know, somebody, okay, I'm going to remove me so nobody has to picture it, but somebody else went to the rodeo and streaked across the fairgrounds to interfere with a thing, I would actually kind of expect them to be barred from the fair, not just for the rest of the day, but moving forward. You know?
Because it's against the law.
And the new
Right.
governmental agreements that they are barred.
So let me just ask, as a former law student, now attorney, now commissioner, I think I was like Socratic and working through a hypothetical. If Jimmy's group or another group showed up in t-shirts and they were not disrupting the performance but stayed seated, is that legally permissible? Is that, because I get your point that you have a designated group that would say they self-identify as protesters. What about those that just say, I'm just wearing a t-shirt, that stay seated? And I'm genuinely asking.
If they went through the proper process to gain admission, whether it's a ticket or whatever, I would be very hard pressed to take a case to court for someone saying, God loves you on a shirt. I mean, that's a tough one to exclude someone for.
Could I add that was the plan? This obviously isn't raise your hand and wait your turn, so I'm just going to speak like they've been doing it.
We're going to go one at a time.
Okay, is that my turn yet?
After Mike.
So if I were
Is this
to
even
show
a
up
thing?
at
Like-
a church event and say,
I'm going to talk to who I want to talk to.
Right, but you're not them. You're not protected class. Not your turn. We're going to go with this guy. Like, I've had my hand up like 5 times, and it's like, hey, can we just talk like them? No, we're doing the one at a time for the protected class. So once they're done talking, if there's time left, and that's what he's doing, there's burning down the clock with all this mumbo jumbo. This is almost over, and you don't get to talk.
So there's a set time.
Yeah, so you raise your hand, and I see you. You're not the protected class. One at a time. And if maybe he talks for another 30 minutes, and we just go home.
with a shirt that says all priests are child abusers, that would be rightfully inflammatory speech, potential incitement for violence. And even if I'm just sitting there, the implication.
Bunch of priests gonna beat you up? Like, what's happening right now? Like, are they packing and they're gonna kill him for wearing a thing that says I've never heard of that ever. This is make up as you go. Like, what comes to your head, just say it.
The implication, it is inflammatory speech. It'd be like showing up at a gathering of Jewish people in a swastika. It is the same level, because while they weren't there to perpetrate violence that day, it's the same rhetoric that gets people from our community killed every single day.
It's very dramatic, but if you interrupt, correct me if I'm wrong, law enforcement, if you interrupt a religious service, that's actually a felony. So there's the difference. If you're not talking about a sunrise service or something like that, we're not talking about that. You belong here is an invitation. Read their invitation. It's everyone, because you're inclusive when it suits your needs. So we came not with the intent to go up front. We were invited. That actually surprised me. Art wanted to be cute and say, "You're invited up front." So that's cool. So we came up and did it, right? And we were asked the lady. And I do have it's my turn. Thank you. They were invited to stay. Like I said, I have it on record. I'm standing there with the officer. It's fully recorded with Michael. Very respectfully, he comes up and says, "Yeah, stay." And I said, "Can we go in the aisle?" He said, "Go in the aisle. 1, 2, 3 like this?" "Yeah, 1, 2, 3 like that." Then we did it. Then we left. You know why we were arrested? Because we didn't break the law. Right? When we were invited to stay, we stayed. When it was time for us to leave, we left. There's the difference. I would say next time, if we really are here trying to figure out the truth and what are we going to do for this, I would say when a guy walks through the door, don't say, "Bad guy coming in, for real guys, front gate, bad guy coming in," right? If you're talking de-escalation and de-conflict, which we teach and we learn, wrong way to start the conversation, right? And putting and having obscenities, having literally a minor. These are investigations that are going on. The truth will come out. It takes a minute. You guys had at me for a week because I was off comms in the mountains. I didn't have any radios. The truth will come out in this deal. Just make sure on the right side of right. If you want help talking about security, they don't need it. They know what to do here. But a law wasn't broken. Why did you risk it? They didn't break the law. Because we were peaceful. We were going to go violent and kill everybody. We had any guns. You had the knives and guns and everything. We didn't. How so?
Yeah.
So I want to make one thing very clear. You are not invited this year at all. If you show up, it is trespassing. Is that legal?
It's just like, let's
That's awesome. This dude's coming unglued. Obviously unhealthy dude anyways, but he can't stand himself. You're not invited to the public fairgrounds that you own. Okay? Like your words don't even matter right now.
One at a time. What I will say is that just being there in person, there were moments where I saw both sides really use their level best to be peaceable, calm, and respectful. I also, to be honest, some moments where both sides said, "That's a horrible person. That's horrible," and there were some really.
Where? When? Hey, when? When did you see that from our side?
Because you didn't talk.
Right.
And you
if we're
weren't
saying
name
true
calling.
words, when did you see that? Because I think you made that up. I truly believe you made that up.
There were some negative, nasty things said on both sides. And I think at the end of the day, when we don't assume best intentions and we treat each other with disrespect, it does create a level of vitriol that makes it very difficult to have a positive event. I mean, even here in this room, I think if we just assumed best intentions, I know Amy, I know, I've known Jimmy for years. I've known Pride Fest for a while now. Everybody in this room, especially law enforcement, is committed to the safety of the people in our community. You all love our community, and you all love our kids. You may not know that you both share that view, but you do. And I believe in each and every one of you, especially the men and women in blue that spent their days serving us. So I think the purpose of today is to think about how we can move forward productively, not limit anybody's right to freedom of speech, but allow for a peaceable event at a public venue.
So I think the key in that space, and I appreciate the bridge you're trying to get there. I absolutely do. You saw me work with people who were willing to talk and willing to negotiate. We worked out, the deal with Kirk Hall and things like that. But when the dialogue starts with, "You're here to hurt children," because that's what's implied by protect the children, is you're here to hurt children. You can't build a bridge from that point until you address the lie that we're there to hurt children.
I pulled the group at that moment. I saw the shirts and I said to her, you know what's really cool? You're here to protect kids too. Yeah. Everybody here is here to protect kids. I think there are much more offensive things that we could have seen on t-shirts and,
That is a true thing. I'll give Abe that one because that's a healthy answer. Stand to protect children. Amen. It kind of closes the loop, you know what I mean? But it takes a healthy person to say that. You know what people yelled when they saw Jesus loves you and so do I? Jesus loves us too! I know. Read the shirt. Yeah. It's like you're not seeing clearly because you're so mad and unhealthy that you can't even see the message. Yeah. Right? But then what do you have to go with that? Like, amen. Stand to protect children. Right on. No matter what you believe, like I agree with that. Right? But that, yeah.
Oh, it was. I was impressed.
You had a point you wanted to jump in.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just keep this really brief. I think feelings are hurt. I think they're hot. I think they're emotional. I think there's a lot of judgment going on here. There are people making assumptions about me. I have had to put in high-end security because of your Parasol Patrol trying to dox me. And that is something I have had to do. So in all fairness, we have to have open and honest considerations. I don't care which way a person is. I care about how they are conducting themselves. I don't have any ill will towards Castle Rock Pride. I walked in, sitting there, minding my business, observing, and yes, I was one of the people that had vitriol thrown at them for about 5 hours. And that to me really hurt. I'm not associated with Jimmy Graham. I've seen him around town. I've never even had coffee with the guy. I've had people throw me into that camp and say I'm a Christian white supremacist extremist. People do not know me. And this has hurt. I wouldn't go to your homes. I wouldn't demand you guys upgrade your security. I don't have that hate in me.
Well, Amy, thank you for that. And I think what's awfully surprising maybe to many of us is that everyone has a sense of hurt and feeling like one side is saying you're the bad guy. Yeah. And what I know to be true is that each of you wants what's best for our community.
Let me make something clear. We purposely
made sure there was quite a barrier before you walked in. We purposely had people registered. We purposely had a bag check. We slowed people down because last year we heard people say we showed up and had no idea what was going on and we did not want our kids seeing. No one has to be there. We are on public property, but we are not out on the street. We are not in Festival Park. Anyone who is there, I am so sorry that people were rude to you. I need to say that Parasol Patrol and us are two different organizations. They are not our Parasol Patrol. That is a 100% separate organization. But I also need to say I have been in meetings with you and I have heard things that you have said about me and people that I love. I have heard that, Mimi, because I have been in the room. So,
I didn't refer to you.
if you are not into it, please don't come.
Well,
I don't say that to anyone. If it is not appropriate for you and your family, please don't come.
I think it's important to talk about that because that's what they've been writing is if you don't want to be there, if you don't want, that's not right for your family, don't come. And I can raise my children however I want. Again, you can't harm them, right? I want access to children and you have no business talking about that, right? That whole grooming, I'll call it that again, right? Teaching them how to tip and do all this other stuff and encouraging that kind of thing is not healthy. It bothers me that if I felt like the police saw that and it was inappropriate and stepped in, I wouldn't have to come.
Yeah.
That bugs me a bit, right? Like, let us have our thing, unhealthy or not, and stay away. Please stay away from here. She says, if you're not into it.
Into it.
It just sounds creepy. If you're not into it, the thing we do with kids where we have them dance and we give them dollars on that stuff, if you're not into it, right? Cops, if you're not into it, just stay away from crime because you're not into it. I'm like, it just doesn't set well with me, right?
Yeah.
And it's if that's your lifestyle and you're going to do it. Later, they had a private party and there was alcohol, and I don't know what was happening. I don't care to know.
Private party.
That was a deal for 18 and older, and okay, but you don't ever get to hear me say I agree with it. That's something you'll never get is to hear me say I agree, right? Because I get to say I disagree. But you have a right to do it, right? It's the kids. It's the things that we brought up that our kids are our future and you want to do this to harm our future and I disagree with it. Right? I know you think it's right. I get it. I don't. So we can agree to disagree, but I do get to say it. But you're saying if you have a different opinion, you don't get to exist. That's dangerous grounds.
Yeah.
So thank you for expressing that. Let me ask our county attorney, executive session at this point, or how would people like to move forward in this meeting? I know we don't have a limited amount of time.
And less scheduled for this meeting. I think that if we wanted to have further discussion about security for policy changes, we probably have to schedule it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been a very authentic, real, productive meeting, even though it maybe has not felt incredibly productive. I think it's really difficult to hate somebody when you see them face to face. And I'm really thankful that everyone had the courage to show up and see each other face to face today. I think if you're open to it, Board of County Commissioners, Laura, if you agree, we'd be more than I see nodding head. We would welcome you to another session to have a discussion around policies moving forward. But Art, you wanted to,
May I offer this because, to your point, Jimmy, and to every person who came to say that last year what they saw was inappropriate, I agree with you. We have said that message from 1 week, 1 day after last year's Pride Fest. It was inappropriate. From going forward, please use this year's drag show as the model for what Castle Rock Pride would like to present to Douglas County as a G-rated drag show appropriate for all children. This drag show this year is fully what we intended it to be. no nudity,
obscenities, assault on a senior, felony, sexual assault on a minor. Let's use this as the example moving forward. So we've had it in the past, and it was horrible. I agree. We had it in the past again, it was horrible. We harmed kids in the past, and it was really bad. And then we harmed kids again, and it was really bad. And then this year, we sexually assaulted a minor, the community, somewhat a member of the community, and we yelled in your face, and we grabbed people, and we smacked people, and we pushed people. Let's use that as the standard going forward. That's what I hear. And I don't agree that it's my definition of healthy. Maybe it's yours, and you can decide.
No raunchy lyrics, no gyration sexual moves, total enjoyment, family friendly. So we acknowledge last year's drag show was not what we wanted to present. We would ask from this moment forward, you use this year's drag show with our new revised procedures as the standard for what Castle Rock Pride would choose to present in any venue in this county.
All right. Thank you with that. Just to be respectful of time, we'll adjourn for today and plan to. Yes, Commissioner.
Let me just say that I appreciate everybody being here, but I think that if there are questions going forward between the Sheriff's Department and Pride on how you can do an event next year with security things in place so the distraction does not happen, then I don't think we need to have a formal meeting with the commissioners. I think that's just a security type meeting that you guys probably do with the public on different events. And I think that we move on, we've set our piece, and that people then can set their own security plans going into the future.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Was that the 10-foot pole? Should have one touched?
That's a 10-foot pole. Yeah. Actually, listen. I just want to give your money. I just want to give money to it. I don't want to fund it and call it suicide prevention.
And did he say any venue in Castle Rock? Like that? What?
It's this is the point I'm even going through all this, and it's been a long one ago. This is dangerous stuff. This is very, very dangerous stuff. What Amy said in that video is very, very true. We've absolutely been targeted. This isn't in the shadows anymore. This is here. This woke thing. I've heard woke. I know of it, but I've never felt it, right? It is here. It's absolutely, you get to, in Castle Rock, in Douglas County, they like to say small town, but what's being pushed is big city, right? So big cities will be the death of us. It's been, people have said that about the cities for hundreds of years. And they're right. Right, that big city mentality of coming in and playing this. Hey, I'm going to say a bunch of nice stuff about you, and now you talk. You do the same thing to me. The truth is just a totally separate thing, but it's here, and I'm feeling it, and I know absolutely there are our business being targeted, me personally being targeted. The word hate was used. It's hard to hate somebody when you see them. I don't hate anybody. I just have an opinion, and then you want to cancel me, and then you want to call me a hater. But you say it enough, people don't really have time for the truth, right? Like I said, sometimes the truth takes a minute to get out. And my hope and prayer is that it will, that this will, when people broke the law, you're above the law. Which law? Well, it doesn't matter. I just like saying above the law. Cool, because we are not above the law. We actually, I don't like going to jail. That's why I don't break the law, right? But you broke the law. Your community broke the law. We have it on video. There's been charges filed. You broke the law. Will you acknowledge that? No. Why do you hate me? This could have been a powder keg, and then these are all distractions, right? In this, in the commissioners' meeting previously, when Abe was, he's a master of distraction. No, look over here, We're not talking about that. We're talking about this. So that's the part that's super, super dangerous, and people have to know the truth. The truth will set us free. You got to know. Focus on what's being said. So that's why I think this needs to be talked about. I think it needs to be dissected a little bit. Make your own decisions. This is public record. We'll attach the link without interruptions and just watch it. But just be careful because it's here. It's here in Douglas County. It's here in Castle Rock. It's time to take a look at this again. And if people can't stand for the truth, we need to Control-Alt-Delete and get new people in. That's the deal. That's the deal. Like if you cannot stand, I want to stay neutral. I don't want sides. I want side with truth. If you side with truth, I'll fall wherever, whether I'm on your side or not. So be it. Side with truth. for the good of this town, for the good of this county, and for the good of this nation. If not, nobody's safe. Final words. I need to take a nap.
It's a lot to process. It takes time. I don't want to sound like a county condition, whatever. It was good to hear differing opinions.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still of the mindset, either I don't understand or I disagree.
Yeah.
And where I disagree is possibly different than other people, but it's okay. Some might say it's healthy.
Yeah.
To verbally say, I disagree. Let's talk about it.
Right.
Right? Versus, I think one of the recent episodes was go from calm and peaceful to full nuclear.
Right.
There's a second option.
Right.
And we can disagree, we can debate, we can understand. We're not the, and I can't even say we're not the guys. There was a group of guys on the hill with megaphones.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Acting inappropriately in any setting.
Yeah.
Wearing a t-shirt.
But that's not the focus. They're not getting in really any, like, nobody's even looking at that. We're evil. Yeah. Why? Because you stood and it scares me. Like, yeah, because you just kind of, I think anything can probably scare you. Like, if that's the thing, it's like they stood there and what they do, what they say to you. And it was very good on the George Brockler interview. And he said, what were they doing? Standing there. Like, other than that, what were they doing? No, they just stood. It's the way they stood there. Well, how did they stand there? They just like kind of stood there.
On 2 feet?
Yeah, and it was just a weird thing. And he's kind of funny about it, so he kind of brought that out, and I actually enjoyed the interview. But it was a very strange thing where once that's what you want to see, you're like, I'm timid, I'm scared because now I'm the victim, and the victim gets more attention, right? And then you'll respond, and then it's just making this thing where it's like victims, see what's the word is repeated, now we just got this world of victims. And everybody's pointing at each other and saying, not I agree to disagree, it's we disagree, so you got to die. Like your business got to die, you got to go away, you can't be here because you're the other side. Yeah. Right? That's dangerous stuff.
Very dangerous.
You better know it's coming. You better know it's here. So there it is. I'd say enjoy, but it's not enjoyable, but just do with it as you will. And this one's in the books, man. Finally, after about 4 hours. I don't even know how long this is going to be. But Tyler, good luck on the editing, brother. And I appreciate you. And guys, truly, love you. God bless you guys. Till we see you again. God bless you and take care of one another.